By the way, your mics are hot.
So dirty.
I was talking about this dude's mom. Oh, we on the air?
Yeah. Whose mama was that?
This dude's mama. He got the nerve to get all upset and call me out to the parking lot. Good morning. Welcome to Community Voice. I'm your host, Keith Parris. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Good morning, Debo. Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Carvey.
Good morning,
Good
bro.
morning.
Yeah, I was at the school board meeting last night.
Yeah.
In the back row.
In the back of the last row, me and Terrence Wright. And
You were in
Aisha
great
Khan was
company.
also in my area.
She was there? I didn't see her.
Yeah, she was there. She was sitting.
Did you have your press pass on?
Yeah, I did have my press pass. Look, and you could tell even like MPS security, you know, they was pretty cool.
No, what you could tell.
But I don't pop it, you know. Y'all make it sound like I do sticky fingers production.
Put mine on. Show me how to do it.
As a matter of fact, I am going to bring it in so you can relaminate it.
Yeah, we can get that done for you today.
That's kind of use I've got from it. I went to an event for Black Lens, and I had my press pass on. So the woman goes, "So you here working?"
Of course.
Because if you're here working, I won't charge you the $35. Oh, I'm here working.
I'm waiting on your article.
Yeah.
I'm waiting on your. Oh, you did your reviews.
I did my
You
review.
did your review.
So it was so I was at the school board meeting. You know, you didn't mention Alderman Spiker.
That's who I did. I said Spiker.
Did you say Spiker?
Yeah, I said Spiker.
Because he was the first one to say, you know, I understand,
Right.
but it seems to me that you're going to scapegoat.
Yep.
You're going to get rid of Posley, and then we're going to go back to business as
Right.
usual.
You did say that.
And that people with the status quo. So he kind of started that. I was telling Michelle before we came on, I'm a little concerned. I'm not a little concerned. I'm really concerned.
About what?
I'm concerned about these factions fighting over MPS have been there. Maybe because we don't go to meetings regularly, we're not as clear on who these factions are. What I've been able to identify is obviously MTEA and MMAC. And then I don't know what some of these community folks, I don't know what their agenda is. Let me say this to you. The sister got up and said that Dr. King said that riots is the language of the unheard. You got to organize. And what I did not, Keith Posley is part of it, but you have a school board who rubber stamped a lot of things. Are you putting together recalls, right? Are you going to be out organizing at the lowest attendance elections we have, which are school board and judicial elections? That becomes the issue. And then what does that look like if you put people on the board who you think are like-minded to you? Now, we know with the teachers union, they want people there, and you're absolutely correct. For a woman to stand up when they're talking about fiscal issues and you say, make sure our raises get passed, and the kids are flunking.
It was crazy.
When the guy got up and talked about, and I had a familiarity with this, with
I
Miami.
pulled her name. She is the president now of the MTEA. Her name is Ingrid Walker Henry.
And so,
Ingrid Walker Henry.
When is she married?
I know, that's what I thought too.
Because I did see Mr. Henry there.
I did too.
I saw Mr. Henry there. So that becomes the issue. I feel bamboozled because I voted for the referendum. Chances are, if I would have been aware of this information prior to, I probably would not have. Because voting it down in April meant that whatever MPS needed to do to get their house in order, they get it in order and then bring the referendum back in November. But it was interesting. But I agree with your commentary. And I kept thinking about there is a scripture in the Bible. The Bible says to be angry, but to sin not. You kept saying people don't have ownership on anger. Your anger cannot justify nonsense. And then the people who were doing the disrespecting were black people to other black people.
Right. And to, in some cases, you know, to Pastor Jolly. Like,
that
when do
was-
we disrespect a pastor?
Right.
To elderly people, to seniors. When do we respect elderly, even though the elderly people was getting jiggy, you know, on the comebacks?
She should have been calling nobody out in the parking lot.
I'm just saying,
Nobody out.
I suggested that was not a good look.
She was gonna need help to get out to the parking lot.
I was suggesting that was not a good look. But yeah.
And then the babies. The kids are sitting there watching the adults. And then the very same adults will turn around and talk about how disrespectful young people are.
Yeah.
They're only doing what they see.
Right.
And then the internalized racism that we have, and this is what I was telling Michelle, there was a little altercation between a brother and some of these white male members of MTEA. And these dudes kept making little comments under their breath. For a whole lot of folks, they can use the situation with MPS, and because Dr. Posley is the superintendent, they can go after him. But their racial biases come out.
Oh, they do.
And so then you do it under the cloud. Oh, we care for the kids. And then niggas, I'm going to use it because it's the first time I use it this month. You run around and then you do the same thing. And here's the point. What has changed? What has changed? What is going to change? And you don't have a strategy for the change. You like the chaos. And so then I'm asking the question, are some of you plants, because you want to see MPS destroyed and taken over by the state? So it was disturbing. I understand people have concerns about the budget. How many people other than 3 or 4 people even talked about budget items?
Right. No.
I mean, it turned into we going after him. That brother showed an enormous amount of restraint. Cause
like I said, I walked away, and I already like Keith Posley. I like him as an individual. And we not boys. I mean, you know, he ain't my boy. We don't kick it. Thank you. I wasn't gonna have none. But I
call me.
Set up.
Call me. Like you told me, like, call me. Yeah, I still would have been out there in the rain.
I would have got you. But you know, so I've interacted with Keith on a number of occasions. Lena, the only legislator I know to have a regular monthly standing meeting. Lena met with Keith Posley every month. Okay. They had a standing phone call or in-person meeting. I respected that. So I like him as an individual. He, you know, just decent brother, down to earth, good brother. When I tell you I got a different level of respect for him after yesterday, because he, like, my face, I might not have said nothing if I was in his situation, but my face would have told it all. His demeanor never changed. His facial expressions never looked angry, confrontational, like, okay, y'all niggas going too far. He stayed right in the same spot. Mind you, the chick sitting next to him, the chief financial officer, getting none of this heat. All these black folks standing up. I'm like, do y'all even know that woman's name? Mm-hmm. Y'all ain't got nothing to say about the woman who actually is supposed to probably execute the budget piece of this whole conversation. So and I just was so frustrated. And I said, and the things that Keith Posley knows that he can't say out loud about other people's roles and being complicit in some of this stuff. Oh, the NDAs that they get ready to get together, they getting ready to be real. So yeah, a whole different level of respect for him on the way he comported himself during that whole thing.
Yeah.
What was that word you just used?
Comported. So,
word.
and I'm gonna tell you, like, the union people disgust me. They do. Everybody ain't gonna say it because everybody's scared. I'm gonna lose your vote. I'm gonna lose this. I'm gonna lose that. But somebody just need to tell the truth. I don't like how these people treat people. I just don't. For people to be in an organization that came about because of oppressing workers and denying workers' rights and, you know, mistreating people and the inequitable treatment, the pay, you know, disparities, for you to be born out of an organization with that kind of history and then think it's okay to come and, like you said, because it's a bunch of racism in the union. I don't care what nobody say. It's a bunch of racist white folks in MTEA. the agendas become the agendas of the teachers, not what's in the best interest of those children.
Right.
The way they try to control that school board, when they realized they had lost control in the state capitol, they decided to take over the school board, and systematically, methodically, that is what they did. They ended up putting all of their people just about that they could get in place in every one of them seats that they could control. They control that board. So that's why I said this is bigger than Keith Posley.
Right. And I think he was clear. I mean, he said the buck stops here.
Yeah.
So whether I got fired, whether I resigned, based on everything that's going on.
And he was even gracious on his little statement on the way out the door.
Right. You know, we're clear on that. That's at that level, and he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to be okay. Emotionally, no one likes getting fired.
You know what? Because I swear I had this moment, and I was like, Michelle, don't go there. But, you know, this brother from small town Mississippi, you know, you work your way up, you get educated, you go through the ladder, you get to this moment, and for your career to hit this kind of crescendo with people that look like you screaming in your face and calling you, you know, ass and this and that, just cussing.
Didn't they call him basically a house Negro?
Yeah, he got called. I mean, he got called all of that. And I just said, like, and then, you know, you got a wife, you got children, you got grandchildren that's watching all of this play out, because, you know, they was watching, because, and some of them might even been in the room. I just don't know who they are, because you want to support your husband, your dad, your grandfather, whatever. And I just said, like, that had to be a heck of a moment to sit there and look out into that sea of people and understand that all of the vitriol was being pointed at you.
Right. Like
them board members didn't have some role to play in the demise of MPS or in the problems at MPS, because they do. Marva Herndon carries water for MTEA all day, every day. That's who go do their nomination papers, knock on doors, help them get reelected. All of them are beholden.
Who was the consulting company came up last night? You mentioned them before.
Oh, Nation Consulting.
Right. And that came up last night.
Did it? I missed that part.
Yeah,
what they say?
Came up that they were talking about how some of the candidates had been supported.
Oh.
I just, and then here's the other piece of it, y'all. I don't know if y'all saw the optics. So you have a 80% plus school district in terms of Black and brown children.
Mm-hmm.
You only have right now
2 Black board members.
One.
Marvin
Marvin
Darrell Jackson. Yeah,
right.
2.
And then there's a Hispanic.
Yep.
Sister?
Hispanic woman.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, look, like, even when Aisha was there, it still didn't make no sense the way that board looked, because I'm like, this is a predominantly minority district. How are these seats drawn that you got all these white folks getting elected to the board?
It's not how the district lines are drawn. It's the people in those districts don't vote.
Don't vote, don't run.
Right.
Because even now, to replace Aisha, I think it might only be one, or I know James Ferguson is running.
Right.
I don't know. I heard somebody else was getting into the race, but I don't know if she's in yet. But, you know, I'm just sitting here like going, how do we let this happen? And that's why I'm looking at the community like, when y'all yelling and screaming at these people on the stage, you need to be turning the mirror around.
Right.
Because we don't have no business letting that board look like that in this community. And then when you see problems, we just sit back and talk about them in the shadows and don't come to the meeting, don't be vocal, and then it spirals out of control. Now everybody want to come raise hell. I don't know who was downstairs. Me and Devo and
no, but I was saying, was there
everybody?
Somebody?
It was a whole bunch of. It was a full.
Yeah. Meech.
Oh my God, yes, but it was full downstairs. Like, we was getting extra chairs off the walls to sit down. It was packed down there.
Because I know
Where you should have been.
no, I was where I was supposed to be.
You should have been down.
The main auditorium.
Now look, he was getting ready to reach for his press.
Bam!
He said he don't pop it.
I don't pop it. Y'all said I was
he
be
popping.
popping and be my leg. Damn, you know, you need to usher me in. I watched some of the folks though, and look, I got folks out there. They like the attention. It was something though. Coretta Scott King said to Reverend Al Sharpton. He had been at some rally and he was just cussing. And
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Remember, she said, Al, you need to make a decision.
Mm.
Is it the message? Because it's something Michelle was saying, then you might want to change what you're doing because it seems like it's more about the messenger, where we want to get up. And let me tell you,
because some people have become a little star.
Oh yeah, let me tell you about attention.
Attention,
it can distort you because after a while, and I do it because I do it every day. The microphone is crack.
Yep.
And when people get on a microphone, and then all the news media, and I was watching because where I was positioned when the person got finished speaking, one of the reporters would come and grab him, say, "Can you come outside and do an interview?"
Right.
And you watch these folks, and they were, "Yes, oh no, I don't know." So
I was looking for the MPS lady from the week before that was making people go outside.
Right.
She could, you're going to distract what's going on inside. But can I just do this real quick before I leave?
Mm-hmm.
Kudos to the Milwaukee Police Department.
Oh, they were cool.
It was I saw about 6 officers. It might have been 8, but I know I saw at least 6. I actually talked to one of the officers because he had been at the other meetings that I had been at. Consistently cool, level-headed. Like, look, we don't want no problems. We ain't trying to do none of this.
Harrison Kern was there.
Huh?
Harrison Kern.
I miss Harrison.
Yeah,
I always miss Harrison.
That's why you need to be upstai's.
I did eventually come upstairs.
What happened? I heard them call his name for him to speak. Did he ever speak?
I don't know if he spoke. He was on the wall, and they've been clearing the walls, and people need to understand that there's practical reasons for that. Then he left, and he was speaking to the chief of security.
Okay.
And I don't know if he spoke because
that's my man. I always mess with Harrison.
I think
I'm gonna see him at Granville
right
Blues.
after Vince Tony.
I was still downstairs when Vince Tony spoke.
Yeah, so
I came
spoke
up
right
a little shortly after that.
Tony.
But no, you got callers, bro. But yeah, I just wanted to just say hats off to the Milwaukee Police Department because they were cool, cordial, professional, and they had like commanding officers were there too. It wasn't just
and it was funny because someone was talking about, one of the speakers was talking about the police.
Mm-hmm.
He said, and I don't know if we need the police. And his brother was in the back said, "Oh, I don't know." And then people up in that upper tier was rolling, and he said, "Oh," because it was getting to the point where it got real personal. And some of you folks that got fired or got your personnel issues with MPS,
not the time.
That's not the time. Not the time, man. And I understand. I don't know what your grievance process looks like now because they decertified the union. But and
I was just gonna say it's not the time because it's wasted in that moment because people realize this is personal and they shut down on you.
And then when I heard people say this, and this leads to anarchy. We don't need Robert's Rules of Order. Oh, yes, you do. And the person I was sitting next to, you go, why? This is why.
I mean, but the biggest thing now, last night it was fair to say you got 2.5 minutes to speak or whatever because of the number of people, right. But Marva abuses it. It could be 4 people there, and this woman would be telling people you got 2 minutes to speak. Why?
They got a clock. Did y'all see the clock downstairs?
That's the YouTube. Yeah,
that's the clock. When they go up, it starts at 2:30.
I know, but I'm just saying they don't have to do that. They set that themselves.
Yeah,
they don't have to give you 2 minutes. That's why people get so irritated with her.
Well, I think if she would have run that meeting, she would have said that your question should be germane to the budget. What people got to talking about because they were like,
but then give people the opportunities that they need to come and vent about these other things.
But here's the piece about Keith Posley. The reason why they go into closed session is personnel.
Personnel, right.
I'm on the board.
Right.
When we have the staff there, when we began to talk about personnel issues, we go into executive session.
We have HIPAA laws, and they have to be followed.
It's everything in terms of protection of that, and then they're public. Now they have to report to you once a decision's been made, but that employee has protections.
Right.
And so when you got a mob going though, and it felt sometimes like a mob. And you
said two. You think I saw 2, Diva?
Because when I pulled up, MTEA was marching from the lead office into the building.
I'm telling you, like I just never thought that I would be at this point.
Like a powder keg,
but like
It was.
You know, and MTA is afforded a degree of latitude that even parents are not afforded, lay people are not afforded. And I'm going to keep harping on them because we need to pay attention to them because they are becoming more of a problem and a hindrance to our schools. And I'm not talking about individual teachers themselves. I'm talking about the way the organization has been run.
So let me ask you this question then. I'm not trustful of MMAC supporting candidates.
Hell no. MMAC got their own agenda. And with who is the president of MMAC, a former state legislator, Dale Kawanga. Dale Kawanga was one of the main people driving OSPP to take over MPS.
So then what then becomes that group, or who is that group that's not beholden to MMAC, that's not beholden to MTEA? Is there a group out there who then can go put together a slate of candidates, organize, and then either do recalls or run people against those?
Well, recalls
candidates?
are happening because I talked to the people. They are already meeting. They getting ready to do the recalls. They know what kind of signatures they got to have. The recall thing is going to be real. I have a lot of faith that they're going to be able to pull that off.
So who are going to recall?
But this is the thing. They recalling all of the MTA supported candidates. They literally said Gerald Jackson not getting touched. And it was one other person. I forgot who that was, not getting touched. But they coming after all five of the MTEA. On Daryl? Why?
I don't know. I just am.
Well, I mean, I think he has been impressive to this point, you know, because when nobody else would speak to people last week, he engaged the audience. When there was an altercation the last time he came down out of behind, because, you know, Marvin Herndon, when I tell you she gonna run to the back as fast as her little legs can carry her, that's the scariest woman. You can't leave when you scared. She gonna zoom to the back. Oh, we going to recess. She fly out of there. Everybody else just sit there and deal with the heat. No, she run to the back. It's just such a clown show. And Daryl, he gonna come. He gonna talk to the people. He sounds, you know, like somebody that really is genuinely concerned. Right. I think he's gonna be all right. But you never know. But I think he's gonna be all right. You know, he don't sound arrogant in the way he delivers his information, but he's willing to talk to people.
Right.
None of the rest of them will talk to nobody. They just sit there and just look stupid. That's why they keep getting cussed out. But, you know, all right.
When we get this call,
enjoy your show. Do you hate him?
No.
He is like your mischievous little cousin that you can't stand when he come over. Because you know he gonna do something. He gonna mess with your stuff.
You're listening to Community Voice. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Dude, you are nervous like the devil.
voice in before we get to Be Healthy, Be You. We have a couple callers who hung on. Caller, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would announce myself and my title, but I know you all know that already. And Dr. Michelle, I want to ditto and amen everything you said today. You enlightened me on some things I didn't know. Most of it I knew as to who runs the school board. And as far as Posey goes, he's a dear friend of mine. And I tried to go virtual, couldn't see anything. And you said Posey kept us composure despite the encountering obstacles.
Yeah.
That's a plus.
Yeah. Yeah, that was 4 hours.
I worked in the Milwaukee Public Schools for about 40 years. I wanted to become an administrator, and I told them when I first got hired, I wanted to be a principal. When they did hire me, they told me you were hired as a teacher, not a principal. And then they had a test once for administrators, and only 2 Black people passed that test. Miss Mosley, who became the principal at MLK on Green Bay, and myself. Then I had an interview, and they surely stacked my interview panel with 4 Blacks and 1 white. Dallas Straver was the white. I got a 48 on my interview. And I know that was stacked. And I did talk to everybody that was on my interview panel. Dallas Straver in particular. I told him in front of the administration building, I saw him, I confronted him, and I told him I had promised myself that I'm not going to be dead before I talk to you. He started running, he ran up into the building. When I went into the building, I found him in the hallway in a group. I got in the middle of that group and told him what I had to say. But so much for that. 2 of the safety people that worked the school board, I had been into a meeting earlier, was former students of mine, and they are dynamic people. They know how to handle students. One's name was, can't remember his name, but his whole family came through there, and I knew all of them. But I have said before, since the state requires that the MPS puts policemen in the building, they should get trained detectives wearing suits, not uniforms, to handle several schools. And they should take those very, very, very good safe aids and use them. But so much for that. And I'm going to let y'all go.
All right. Appreciate you, man.
Have a good one.
You too. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Parris.
Good morning.
Thank you for taking my call. Assalamu alaikum to you, brothers.
Alaikum salam.
And the nurses or the people who represent the medical field. Yes, ma'am. I was listening. This has nothing to do with the ladies who are present at all. But I wanted to speak directly to Ms. Bryant concerning what has taken place with Dr. Keith Posley. And I wanted to say this as a Black man. I'd like to apologize to Dr. Keith Posley for what he experienced and all the disparaging remarks that people have made about him who have Black skin like himself. I was not there. That's not a concern of mine. But what I want people to understand or take this into consideration, when you are a host of a talk show on the radio, and one moment when something has come out negatively about a Black man or woman who's in leadership, who can impact the progression of our children, and you yourself first come out and disparage this man, and then you try to do a cleanup the day after he was forced to resign, that makes you a duplicitous and treacherous and a lying individual. You are dubious. You have a forked tongue. You cannot come out one day and say all the things that you have said about this black man who has qualified himself. He's clearly an intellectual. I'm certain he knows what he's doing. I'm totally in understanding of what he had to endure to get where he.
Look at the devil. All right. So anyway, let me say this. That wasn't what was talked about on Monday. Was the fact that the handwriting was on the wall that Dr. Posley was going to lose his job. There was no way after everything came out, I don't care who the person was, they were going to keep that job. I mean, that is the optics of it, the politics of it just required that. And let's say the school board had made a decision that they were going to keep him. That would have just, I mean, we understand those people who operate at a certain level understand that it may or may not be all your fault, but that's why you get paid what you get paid, right? And that you could lose your job, right? I mean, that goes along with the territory. So, and he is he serves at the pleasure of the Milwaukee School Board of Directors. And so the fact that he resigned, it wasn't surprising. I think it was better than them firing him. And I don't know what they talked about for 5 hours, because it seemed like it was fait accompli even before we got to the meeting. Right. When they said they were going to have this special part, we had to know. And again, I think they were smart enough to know that at this point he was in an untenable situation. So, yeah,
well, Keith, it really boils down to, when everything's great and you're the leader and it's, hey, right. You're the same leader when the lights go out,
right?
And it's dark and gloomy and, you're still at the helm. So be it. That's just how it is.
Right. And we'll see what happens with the recall for some of these folks there who, but what it sounds like, and I think Pastor Jolly said this last night, and the reason why you see me with this T-shirt on is because in 1972, my mother had lost faith in MPS, right? And that's why we ended up in private school. Now, we had the wherewithal to do that. A lot of people don't. But that was a choice that was made in 1972. We're in 2024 now. And it's worse now than it was then.
Keith, you were around. Maybe you can enlighten me. Dr. Howard Fuller, why did he leave?
I don't want to comment on that.
Okay.
I wasn't in agreement with where we were going as a school district, but
at that point in time.
So I'm not gonna. I know that there are a lot of people.
I guess I only asked the question to say that as long as I can remember, there's been issue.
Oh, man, there were issues.
In MPS.
The issues prior to was segregation, the hyper segregation of MPS, and many of us came up under that hyper segregated system, right? I mean, rigidly enforced segregation. And then when they began to open it up and you dealt with white flight, as happens in urban areas, those districts become poor because the tax base is affected, what you're able to put into the school system.
I was a 220 kid, and I think it was the worst thing that happened in my life.
With 220?
Yeah.
There are a lot of people, they were very thankful for 220.
I'm not one.
Well, yeah. There were a lot of people who, I think that there's a cultural comfort that people have when they're around people that look like them and who are situated pretty much like them. It was jarring for many of us, Black students who came from Milwaukee to go to Dominican, not so much because it was white, because we could have went to Madison at that time, which was still predominantly white, but it was very different white. We're talking about now people with means, real means, we're talking upper class folks. Culturally, that's a big hurdle to overcome. So, but I won't comment on the tenure of Dr. Fuller when he was at MPS. All right. So inside Be Healthy Be You, Miss Julia Means. Miss Brenda Buchanan is not with us today. Missed you guys last week, but we know you don't work the day after the holiday.
I was not in town.
See, you don't work the day after the holiday. So welcome.
Welcome.
You were out of town. Where were you?
I was in
Orlando, Florida.
Oh, so you kind of went to the heat, huh?
Went to the Heat.
It's something. I was talking to a guy yesterday, and we were at the gas station, and we're filling up. And the one thing that you can always have a conversation with people about is weather. So it was a beautiful day. And he was just talking about how beautiful a day it was. And I said, that's what I love about Wisconsin. We have these seasons and we have days like this. And he was saying that his son lived in Fort Lauderdale for 15 years and moved back here. He said, I'm not going back. It's too hot. And I said, well, my wife's folks are in Miami. It's hot, man. I mean, I just love. Now, our weather extreme sometimes is, I guess our winter would be their summer in terms of brutality, but we know how to move this snow. You can't move heat. Ooh, I'm talking about that heat that it was humid.
It was humid.
Yeah.
It was hot.
It was hot. Oh, man.
But I was inside.
It was inside. I hope so. Well, you know what? That's interesting because I know you're gone for a church meeting. I remember when Rhonda and I went to California. It worked out for our honeymoon, and so we were able to. Rhonda had a conference in San Diego, and we had the Congress Christian Education going on in San Diego at the same time. How about that? So I remember it was so many people there that they had us in tents. We're under tents. But this was San Diego.
It's beautiful.
Perfect climate, right? Supposedly. So, but when you're talking about people indoors, yeah.
Indoors.
And maybe just from the health perspective, we'll talk about it, I'm sure, as we get warmer, but heat and heat stroke and heat exhaustion. My aunt it's our last major holiday was Mother's Day.
Easter?
No, it was recent, a couple of weeks ago.
And
It was Mother's Day, and she got so overwhelmed by the heat, in the house. So it's real. People need to take care of themselves.
They do.
Make sure you stay hydrated.
Yes, that's a big issue, big thing.
Sunblock, because Black people act as if we don't get sunburn. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
And so sunblock, people like you. Kennedy, boy, and they put her outside, they just like baptize her in sunblock. But she's still a little chocolate. I looked at her and said, oh, you got a little chocolate here. You're out in the sun. But that's healthy too, though, right?
It is.
Benefit of the sun.
The sun gives you a lot of vitamins. Yeah, it's good. It's good for you.
Yeah. So that exposure, and today's an interesting day.
Yeah.
We had a shooting across the street.
Yeah, I saw it on
Did you?
television. Yeah.
I didn't even know until when we go to commercials, we do a street shot, and you still saw the police and the tape.
Yeah, I'm like, that's where I'm going.
Yeah, that's what Michelle says. It's not safe. It's not safe. So today we're talking about
Alzheimer's.
Okay.
It's called a lot of different things. People pronounce it a lot of different ways.
I had a co-worker whose last name was Alzheimer.
Really?
But it wasn't spelled the same way because it's hers was Alzheimer. Yeah. Oh, Gwen. I miss Gwen. Anyway.
Yes. We think that when anybody have a problem with dementia, we think it's Alzheimer's, but dementia is like an umbrella. It covers a lot of different diseases that causes brain dysfunction. And Alzheimer's happens to be the most popular one. And
popular? Well, of all the dementias I want to get, this is the one I want. No, it is. Why is that? How do you differentiate that between, we've had the folks on from Melanin Minded. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have a conversation with people from the Alzheimer's Association on Monday. So
excellent people.
You talk about how, providential this conversation is in terms of everything discussed. So what is dementia? And then what then is Alzheimer's? Because that's part of dementia, right?
Yes. Dementia is any time the brain is dysfunctioning. And when I say that, when you lose your memory,
you can't function daily.
When you say lose your memory, this is a slow progression of loss of memory because we forget things.
It's a different type of memory loss.
Right.
When you don't know how to get back home, when you that's a problem. When you don't know,
Write these symptoms down. Okay, get off.
family members can see it.
Yeah.
I mean, as you age, you do forget things.
And isn't part of that, and let's just say it's not in the dementia spectrum, but part of that is we have accumulated so much information over the years.
Mm-hmm.
That's why a young brain is different than an older brain. And not just to mention the wear and tear on the older brain, but that younger brain is still taking in information, right? It's still, but we've stored 66 years of 50 years of 70 years of information. Does that probably might affect our memory so much? That's a little bit different now than we're dealing with a cognitive degeneration, right?
Yeah, and that's not, and I don't want to say that's normal aging, because we have so many people that have aged well.
I mean, incredible conversation.
Yes, and their memories are still excellent.
I have a 90, soon to be 91-year-old pastor. I mean, and sharp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
and that has a lot to do with how we take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And they always say a healthy heart is a healthy brain.
Okay.
So
because
if you,
of the blood.
yes, if you do what it takes to keep your heart healthy, it also affects your brain. Being active, eating right, taking your medicine, controlling your diabetes, being active instead of, just being sedentary and doing what you don't want to do.
So when people, let's say, get post 60, I won't say post 50 because I know for the county you can't retire till you're 60 for benefits. So post 60, the encouragement of keep moving.
Keep moving. And especially brain activity, learning new things and challenging your brain. Because if we continue to keep it going, it'll work better. When you sit and you don't stimulate yourself, isolation and no stimulation, no exercise or activity, you kind of hear crickets up there.
Yeah, I think that we this constant curiosity, it's just kind of, I don't know. I think as we I was having a conversation with someone and they were telling me about some health challenges they had just experienced. And so because we've gone to school together, he said, "So how old are you?" And so I gave my age. And he kind of looked at me like, "Oh." Then he kind of went on, and then it hit me, "Dude, you're old." I'm old. I mean that, and what I mean, and you now, people go, "Oh, 60 is the new 50," but chronologically, advanced.
Yeah, but what's the alternative?
Let's see. Oh, death.
So embrace your 60. Embrace it well and take care of yourself.
No, I mean, and then other people would say, "Well, I would have never thought that." Okay. But some of the things you could do though, I try not to dress 60.
You try not to dress 60.
I know we got to get, but I love all African people all over the world. I really do. I do. When God made African people, God made something really beautiful. When it comes to our swag, bad and good, right? When it comes to our swag and our style, and I see people kind of going like, "Ooh, dude, I don't know." I don't know if we can do this. Because you got some. Hey, look what? Let me do this, baby. if you feel strongly about wearing that thing, you go, girl. You go, bro. You just, because sometimes you just be going like, wow, you really put a lot of time into it.
Match,
yeah.
shoes, everything.
I don't know. That might be let me get us back to, let me do the segue. That might be a sign of some cognitive decline.
Well, mood and personality changes.
Yes.
But if people dress that way all the time,
still, dude, it ain't 1979. It's coming back in style. Not anytime soon. When we talk about that, so dementia is this cognitive kind of degeneration, right? It's impacting our brain, primarily our memory.
No, it your mood, your personality.
Is that why when you at 65 plus now you get the depression
screening
question when you're when you're doing
they
your physical?
Do that with everybody.
Really?
Because more than just seniors are depressed.
And I always love when they said my mom through that. And they said, "Are you depressed?" And my mom looking at them going like, "I ain't depressed."
Are you?
Are you? Right. And that's the interesting thing, because my mom now is dealing with her short-term memory is impacted, right? Still very lucid, still able to come in, recognize, but she might forget things. And so it's always funny when I forget something and then she remind me.
Yeah. It depends on what's important.
Right? And being able to, but whenever we take her to the doctor, I just sit there in amazement listening to her conversations, right?
Yes.
Because she's on point.
And I like that you said that, because when your parent is a certain age, you should not let them go to the doctor by themselves.
I have to start going in the room. I don't have to go in there now for the shots in the knees, but yeah, I sit there and funny and just listening to my mother and how she will. They ask her the questions and she's able to answer the questions. But I remember her doctor, and I was stunned when her doctor said this, because normally she deals with the PA, but her primary had not seen her. So her primary comes in and she said, "Cliffy, you look good." Now, I know the doctor ain't gonna lie to her, right? So in some ways she's been very blessed.
Yes.
And so all we're dealing with again is that short-term memory piece. Now there's a whole other thing. Again, we talk to people mellow-minded where they're really dealing with the Alzheimer's. So how do we differentiate that from the other dementias that people might experience?
When you're dealing with dementia, the care of a patient with dementia is the same. You got to protect them, keep them safe, and make sure they live the best lives they can live. And a lot of that has to do with making sure the caregivers are educated and know how to deal with them, and realize that it's difficult for them to do certain things and don't have the anticipation that they will do it and get upset because they didn't do it. But to keep them safe, you don't want them wandering and becoming lost, or those senior alerts, what they call it, silver alerts. You don't want
everybody's alert. I don't get home for 2 hours. we have a critically missing young man, Keith Parris, and you go your pictures all up on billboards. And I think that was because of the whole alert system changed because of the woman and her daughter, and she ended up
in the lake
and being able to. And then obviously with children, but the silver alert thing becomes real interesting, because I know people have shared stories about how their parents or a parent had gotten up and just got in the car and started driving.
You didn't know.
And
you didn't know. But when they're talking about it depends on the different parts of the brain that is affected. And we talked about this with brain injury. The frontal lobe is where a lot of the decision making, your judgment and things are. And people with dementia may say one thing and mean another. And
just people with dementia.
you know, like they may say I'm in pain or I'm hungry and really
Almost
meaning
like a
that
child.
I'm in pain. Yes. So
Right.
they don't know. They do know that music can stimulate the brain. And so you do want to go back to the playlist that the people, that the music that they heard in their
Well, Arlene Skorowski,
Mhm.
ironically, was one of the musicians they used for that Alzheimer's group where they do the music to have the choir.
Mhm.
I think Joe Nathaniel now does it. And but then she ended up
having it,
having
and
it.
he took care of her, right?
Yeah.
And that was awesome.
Yeah.
She still could play that piano though.
Right. I you know that testimony. The Lord woke me up this morning, closed,
In my right mind.
not clothed, closed. I understand what they're saying, because to be in your right mind, and that's the real fear I have. I have a fear of Alzheimer's because I don't know what it is now, or what it would be like. Obviously, I don't. To be like where I'm really trapped inside myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how they characterize it. And to not be able, look, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer,
Mm-hmm.
but I do kind of make my living sounding like I'm a sharp knife, and now to not be able to do that. That was just like the thing with the stroke, the fact that it didn't affect my frontal lobe, because it could have affected my speech. And that's, don't get paid a lot, but that's how I earn my money. So that it's a fear that I really have.
But once you get it, you won't fear it.
I won't know it. I won't fear it because I
If
won't
you
know.
get it, but you don't. So that'll be over.
That'll be over. Yeah, the fear part will be over. The fact I'm experiencing the disease, that'll be very real. But hey, the fear of that disease is
that's
gone.
over. But they show the brain as it ages, it shrinks.
Mhm.
And it showed, I learned this from Melanie Minded, actually, how the brain looks when you have Alzheimer's or dementia, how it's not tight anymore, it's open. So you need those dendrites to be sparking and snapping and everything, and they can't because they're so separated. So, but sometimes they do. I worked on a unit where everybody on there had some type of dementia. And I was asking another nurse how to spell a word, and this guy who had dementia walked by and spelled it because that came back to him, But if you asked him to go and sit down and eat, he couldn't. So, and he didn't recognize his family. I think that's hard. And he didn't recognize who his family was and anything, but he could spell.
I have a friend who we've known each other since we were 6 years old. He had some health challenges, and I don't know if he'd had there was something that happened with his brain, and he lost all memory of everything prior to the episode. He doesn't recognize you. And here's a dude I've known since I was 6 years old.
And he didn't know who you were.
He had to relearn everything. And so because he worked with Rhonda, one of the guys at one of the programs, he said, this is Keith Parris. He said, oh, your wife talks about you all the time. Not all the fatherhood stuff we've done together. I mean, all of that. And that would be, in my mind, similar to someone now with Alzheimer's. Now, at least with him going forward, he's creating new memories. But everything in the past, that's gone.
A lot of our dementia also comes from vascular incidents.
Which is back to the heart. Right?
Yeah, back to the heart thing. A lot of it comes from that. That's why we want to take care of ourselves. But you also want to notice people or be able to notice changes, because there is medications and stuff out there now that can slow the progression and help you. And so most of the time we're in denial, family and the patient, and so they don't seek help until it's too late. And no medicine, no therapy, no nothing will help at that point.
So what would precipitate then? Because is that identified in a CAT scan, or I mean, beyond the symptoms, behaviors? When they go in and examine the brain, can they go in and then begin to see
It if the changes are there, they can
Okay.
see it with a CAT scan. Like the images that they showed us was the images from a scan, so you could see it. I think I even seen them one time. They even brought a brain for you to see how the brain looks as it ages. But we have a lot of community people. I'm thinking of Gina and her group and how they work with educating the community and supporting. I mean, they have the choir, which is awesome, and that shows you how music is so important. Now, a lot of these people that are in the choir they have dementia in a later stage, even dementia, but they can still sing.
because there is a muscle memory that happens. I can't tell you if it's B flat, but if I know the song, part of this muscle memory I have is, oh, I know the key.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm singing that song in that key, which is interesting. I should have been more formally trained when it came to music. So I can get up and there's a song. I do it in the key. My brain automatically knows
It's going to go there.
it's going to go there. And I think that that's what triggers when they hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in advertising, I could tell you that what's the one we use? Kennedy. When you listen to advertisers
Mm-hmm.
or advertisement, everything is very purposeful. The key that the song is in, because the key to the song is that you can remember it, and if you can sing that key. One of the greatest examples we always talk about here is Great Impressions. I don't know if you've heard the Great Impressions ad, but most people, when they hear they can do the whole, right, the key, you know what, and I mean singing it at the key, you're not singing, because that's how the brain functions, right? And music is really primary. How do we learn how to do our alphabets?
Singing it.
Mm-hmm. Because that is the rhythm
Mm-hmm.
and all those things. And so I think that that's probably why, I don't know what it is chemically or neurologically, what happens when people hear that music, because you hear people talking about the care they had, they put on certain music,
Mm-hmm.
and it must trigger something to memory.
Mm-hmm.
And even though people can't talk, you still can see their experience a certain level of pleasure because they hear the music.
Because they hear the music. So, and keeping people busy, active. You know, you don't want to just get them and just sit them in one spot. You want them to be active, even though they have dementia, they still should have a routine. You know, get up, we're going to go here, we're going to do this. And that's why it's very difficult for caregivers. We have to remember and support those caregivers. I know they're looking at making churches more dementia friendly, because so many of our seniors, that was their life. They went to church, and then you take that away from them.
My mother's frustration was, she said, I go to church, I don't remember. So now they do the actual virtual church where she can watch the service. But if you asked what was the message about, where in the past, you know, my mother,
She had notes.
she dissected that message.
Yeah,
you know, and so you make that adjustment.
Mhm.
I think, and I guess that's part of aging too, is adjustments, right?
Aging is adjustment and family support. You need everybody.
I took my mom out for an eye exam out at Freighter when we finally found out where the place was. And so we did valet parking, and it was close to closing. so they had called over. They parked the car, keys, and then so we're waiting. And there was a young woman there with her son. Her son looked like about 7 or 8. So when the car came, he was kind of looking at me going out with my mom. I helped my mom get in the car. And I turned to him and said, yeah, because this is what you're going to have to do when your mama get this age. And she said, that's right. That's right. But the whole idea, and you know, we've been blessed that there are people out there who are really dealing with very severe onset of Alzheimer's, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it is. And so the stress that it puts on those families, and primarily the caregivers, you know, we talk about, I used to hear this when I first started at the Department of Health and Human Service, respite, because we had a thing where I think people could be paid or compensated for it. I didn't know what it was until my mom had to start caring for someone who was developmentally delayed. Mm-hmm. And that's what respite is for.
You take them and you say, I need some rest. Mm-hmm. And you place them someplace where they're safe, a respite, and they take care of them while you get some rest.
And the irony was my mom, she had a partner. They would,
okay,
you know, mom, when she would go, mom would take care of her folk. When mom would go, she'd take care of her folk. Mm-hmm. And then she ended up with dementia. She just passed. Someone just told me. So I'm back to fear again. I you know, because especially, you know, you just vibrant minds. And again, your relationship with that person is going to be altered because, as you said, they might not recognize you.
Some don't, totally don't. Others do. Mm-hmm. But there are memory tests that they can do. Yeah.
The president took it.
Oh.
And my mom took it.
Okay. And you know, I think African Americans are difficult to judge them because
why?
Because they're such social people,
yeah,
that they can fool you. They can you would say, oh, they okay. So it's another test they have to give them, and it's a little longer than the regular.
But isn't that kind of would indicate a certain level of health that you're trying to fool the people?
Well, it's not that they trying to fool them. It's just that it's natural to them. They'll go, do you know what at the time I was in this memory test with this person, do you know who the president? Yeah, Bush, like the beans, Bush. You know, they coordinate things with their normal. Yeah, you think I'm crazy or something? You know, they'll talk to you like they own Target, but they're not. It's a good day. Yeah, it's wonderful outside. How is your family doing? What, you know, the way we carry on conversations is very, we do it well. We do it well.
Okay. So then, even in the diagnosis, we need to be culturally aware.
They need to be culturally competent of our and I talked to one technician that was doing it, and I said, you know, yeah, she's going to be kind of hard to evaluate the normal because she's pretty good, and she said, oh, we got a longer one.
Well, that's what they do in polling. In polling, they'll ask you the same question 2 or 3 different ways.
Uh-huh.
Because the first thing is, let's say, are you a racist? No. Hell no, I ain't no racist. Then you might ask a question in such a way where now it identifies your bias, right? You don't even know. So, right, people, I hate to say, and this is a learned behavior. Adults will say no, and people are pretty quick to lie.
Well, I wouldn't say lie. They just
no, they lie.
They don't
Julie,
know
they
the
lie.
truth.
They don't know. Oh, they don't know the truth. Oh. What did Rance Allen say? Tell the truth, shame the devil, right?
Mhm.
That was a big. I didn't realize that was such a big hit for him. He did that at Watt Stacks. Have you seen the movie Watt Stacks or heard the
No.
album? Yeah, but Rance Allen is there because Rance Allen was signed with Stax, and he did the song "Tell the Truth, Shame the Devil." Yeah, that's interesting to me that people would try to be deceptive.
What? They're not being deceptive. They're just being themselves, and
Okay.
just being themselves. And you know, you've talked to people that they go on and on and on and they repeat themselves, and yeah, and you, but they have truth in their speech. You know,
Right.
they're accurate.
And I'm trying to be so economical in my speech now. Um, I get frustrated with people being verbose and just why are all these words to say can we go across the street? I mean, but that might be an indicator if a person who was very, very verbose becomes less and less so, right?
Mhm,
Because there could be some again diminishing
mhm.
of yeah, I mean it is
And it's more, it's more than that. A lot of them end up in the ER because of incidents that have happened. You know, they trip, they fall, they're falling a lot. They're forgetting that the stove is on, or they run in water and went to sleep and the water's running. And you know, there's a lot of accidents and incidents that causes them to be in ER. And
well, Brenda had said something I didn't even think about now. I'm really conscious. She said, you know, as you get older, you don't pick up your feet,
feet, you shuffle.
you shuffle,
Mhm,
and so that makes you more prone to fall.
mhm.
Um,
Can't
so
see as well, can't hear as well. All of that makes you more susceptible to accidents. Um, Not knowing where you put your keys. And then when you find them, they're in a place that you would never put keys in the refrigerator, you know?
well,
So
if I'm trying to chill them,
there.
I'm one of these people though. My mental illness requires order. And so everything goes back where I believe everything has a place, right? And so my keys, my wallet, if I put it in the same place, um, then in my mind I can keep up with it. And I don't know how much of that has to do with the type of work I used to do because basically I was a file clerk, and so everything has order, right? And
Mhm.
so when that's thrown off. But even, you know, I think about that because with some people dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's, they're dealing with, what's my mom?
It's your mom.
Yeah. They're dealing with, think with memories and I'll give her a call. Um, so
That's why it's easy for people who are close to them to recognize the change. You know, like if you're a family member that only comes and goes on a for a long period of time, you won't see it. But if you're there with them on a regular basis, you will see the changes and you'll recognize it um, first. And you want to first go to your primary care physician for help, or talking to your primary care who can suggest, give you other areas to look out for. But Department of Aging, which you know a lot about, that's a place to go to. Um, there's help, and you're not in this alone for the caregivers, and because it can be very challenging. And then other family members need to help. Um, we talk about that respite, but just come in and let that main primary caregiver go and do her whatever, her or he, who's ever the caregiver is, go and do what they have to do. Give them breaks. You know, it's important. You want to keep them safe. That's the biggest part, pain free. And we all get that burden when you take care of somebody that's ill. That's a heavy load.
And so there are support groups out there.
There is support groups out there. There's none in our area for Alzheimer's right now. We're looking to get one started. But you have a lot of agencies that'll work with you.
Alzheimer's Association, even I
And in
think,
Wisconsin, Alzheimer's Association and Gina's WI.
and then you would deal with, there's certain gerontologists who deal primarily
Yes,
with this.
with-
And so,
Yeah,
um,
because they know the normal aging,
mhm.
and then they know when things are abnormal. So you wanna get on it as soon as possible.
Just, did we talk? I know you mentioned some of the symptoms. Are some of these things recognizable, or in terms of the symptoms that?
Yeah, they get anxious a lot. Might put their clothes on backwards. They may.
Crisscross. Back in the day, remember crisscross?
I just remember being down at Clinton Rose, and this woman who was a very great dresser, and very awesome woman. She came down fully clothed backwards.
Mm. She lived by herself.
She lived by herself, and we don't know how she got down there.
It's amazing
What they can
what
do
people
and
can
how
do.
and where they will go.
And sometimes I think because we do have people who are out dealing with challenges as it relates to their mental health, and we, just wandering, they're doing what they're doing, then you can see an older person and maybe thinking, oh, they're just out there. I hate to use the term, they're just crazy.
Mhm.
And they could really be dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's.
Yes.
Well,
and-
Alzheimer's, they're probably, if not, are they going to be, I'm going to use the word institutionalized, but I think there's different level of care then once it's been diagnosed, right?
Well, I find that our people, when I say African Americans, they take care of their loved ones at home. And if they have to institutionalize them, it's for their safety. But, and we tend to keep our people at home. We do it, and we do it well. That's why we need to support them, those that are doing it.
I know that there are different groups out who will do workshops from time to time. I don't know if you're where they raise the level of awareness, certainly in our nonprofits and our religious, our faith-based.
We're actually having one this Thursday at Ebenezer at 10:30. Department of Aging is coming and talking about the resources that they have for seniors and people who are dealing with dementia. The Alzheimer's Association is putting it on, and there will be resources there.
So do people have to register for that?
Nope, just come.
So give them the time, date, address.
Okay, this Thursday, June 6th at Ebenezer Church, and it's at 10:30. Come on down. Lunch will be served after it's over. Be some kind of food there.
Have we
Yeah.
all done the dine?
The Diner B is tomorrow
Okay.
in the evening. Mhm. So we have a lot going on. We want to specifically, we want our churches to be dementia friendly. We want our community to be dementia friendly, and we want our family members that have dementia to get the care and physical and mental care that they need, and want them to be safe.
Miss Julia Means. I don't know if Brenda's listening. Hey, Brenda. I don't know if
Hey,
she's listening,
Brenda,
watching.
I'm sure she is.
Miss you. I really missed you all last week.
You did.
Yeah, because it's my Tuesday routine.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I could have called in.
No. I knew it wasn't gonna happen.
Oh, you were planning on
I
it.
was planning on it. I was prepared. I don't know what we ended up talking about. But anyway, be healthy, be you. Miss Julia Means. Thank you, Julia.
And thank you.
Lord willing, hope to see you next week.
Yes.
You're listening to Community Voice. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Jermaine Rideout. Did you know Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's Delight, or even Blondie's Rapture often get credits for being the first mainstream hip-hop song? But they were not indicative of what the genre will become. Run DMC will become the first act to establish the blueprint for rap stardom, beginning with Sucker MC before moving on to much bigger things that would include the birth of mainstream rap rock with the cover of Aerosmith, Walk This Way.
This moment in Black Music Month was brought to you by the Wisconsin Black Chamber of Commerce, striving to make Black people the largest employer of Black people.
Hello, I'm Vanessa, co-chair of the Juneteenth Vendors.
I am Frank, co-chair of the Juneteenth Volunteers.
Juneteenth is fastly approaching and space is always limited. So if you have an interest in being a vendor, you need to sign up today.
Juneteenth would not be successful unless we have volunteers. We need volunteers for a multitude of different areas. So companies, corporations, organizations, Divine Nine, even families, please sign up to be volunteers today.
So call Northcott Neighborhood House today at 414-372-3770.
Vendors and volunteers call today at 414-372-3770.
Thank you.
Urban Vibes, community conversation where we all have a seat at the table. Join the conversation every first Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. with me, Karen Dotson, from the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. We will discuss health issues
You're inside Community Voice on WNOV 860 AM and 106.5 FM with your host, Keith Parris.
Welcome back to Community Voice. Phone lines are open. 414-444-5250. 414-444-5250. You know, I was sitting here, Debo, and I was going, should I apologize for dropping the N-word? No.
Not the way they conducted themselves last night, man. No. It was a bunch of them in there.
Oh, man. And trying to retire that word. I am trying to retire
well, Keith,
that
you
word.
know, I think the thing that really, having been one that hasn't gone to a lot of stuff like that, I just kind of shy away from it, stay away from it. Because I guess I'm easily perturbed, I guess is the word I'll use. Because I was very disappointed. Even some of the individuals that I knew, I saw the Meaches, and there's a young lady that I think she used to be a school safety. She talked all over everybody that got up and spoke. Well, y'all trying to get rid of it. Just ghetto, man. And it just sent me somewhere. You know, I'm trying to get audio that I can bring back and we can utilize this morning. And I'm just like, really? It just wasn't for me. That's why I left as quickly as I did.
And it was something that when Michelle was talking to Solis, and was saying to her, don't get frustrated because you'll get frustrated.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to see this at churches. You know, people go to church meeting and people clown at church meeting. So then people say, I'm going to come down here. And I understand that. That's a real sentiment. I didn't come here to fight. I'm trying to figure out what the situation is.
You know, I can appreciate, I can respect your passion.
Right.
For the cause and, you know, your beliefs or what have you. But there's got to be a better way to where you're not offending folks that are there for the same reason as you.
And then here, this is what's amazing. I hate the term. I think it's an offensive term. Shut up is an offensive term to me. I don't tell people to shut up, and you don't tell me to shut up. But people are getting frustrated in the back because they're trying to hear the speakers, and somebody said, why don't y'all shut up? Oh, no, nigga, don't tell me to shut. Negro, you're talking. You're rude. Right. This ain't cool. You're not moving the needle. What you're doing is people looking at you, and if you have a particular cause, they're more focused on you than your cause now because
Absolutely.
you did. And Michelle is right. It doesn't give you the right to be disrespectful. And then you sit up and talk about how these teachers are disrespecting our kids. What? So I think, and the fact that we're sitting up having the conversation about the behavior of the people in the audience and not what is the future.
Exactly.
What's the step forward for MPS?
You know, and I hate to call folks' name out, but Beauty. Now, she's got her daughter with her and grandchild, the daughter lipping off. I mean, you know, that whole display of disrespect, not just for, I mean, let's look at the other folks that were in the room that wanted to hear what was being said. Total disregard for that.
No, it don't. You so into you don't realize you're part of a collective. And one of the things, that's why I always love when we really do our African tradition, we sit in a circle. Because when we sit in a circle, there is no big U, little Y. We're in a circle. This is linear.
It puts me in the mind of when you go to the movies, and you trying to watch the movie, and these folks study talking, loud, up and down, loud, just everywhere, all over the place. You can't hear you're an avid movie goer. What does that do to you when you go?
That's why I go when I go.
Yeah.
Because I'll try to get there when there's nobody there. Because now some experiences though, we were talking about when we went to see The Last Dragon. That was supposed to be interactive. The way that you're supposed to, it's like, you remember, what was it? The Rocky Picture Horror Show.
I've heard tell of it.
And it used to be at the Oriental.
I'm a lot younger than you, you know.
Oh, yeah, but they were doing it certainly in the 90s. But it was over at the Oriental.
I wasn't born in the 90s.
Oh, okay. Over at the Oriental, And that was part of it. You dressed up. You did the parts of the movie. I remember going to see Pink Floyd's The Wall down at Marquette. Wrong. Because if I was trying to figure out what was going on in the movie, they sang every song. They knew every line. That's a little bit different than, we go into a movie and it's the color purple.
Yeah,
people, they talk it all through. I don't know what that
not
is.
the second color purple, but the
original.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, why we thought that it was so important that we need to be part of the movie. Anyway, and people just have a need for attention. Caller, welcome to the program.
Yes, sir, Mr. Parris. I call back to complete my thought, if you would allow me.
No. And Christopher, I don't know what was happening. We were sitting here, next thing you know, you were gone.
Oh, it's okay. I'm used to being hung up on. So
no, we didn't hang up on you, though, brother. I can assure you of that.
It's all right. So I'm not like, oh my God, they hung up on me.
Could be the man.
There must be a revolution.
Could be the man.
Today we didn't hang up on you. We could hang up on you tomorrow, though, Christopher. You know that.
Right. I know. You could. So I'm always ready. That's why I learned.
Christopher, before you go there, I know what you're saying, and I kind of responded a little bit to what you were saying as it relates to. I don't think, from what I was hearing, that it was a disparagement of Dr. Posey. I think what people were saying was, people in the know knew he's gone. There was no way that Dr. Posey was going to survive this. And I think that was the sentiment, not that, there was this disparagement, because even today, and I don't know if you were there or not, but to witness, look at the theology, look at God. Someone said that a crucifixion requires witness. And we kind of saw a bit of a crucifixion last night in terms of making him the scapegoat
for a sacrifice.
Yeah, for everything that's wrong with MPS. And those of us who've been in MPS know that MPS has been jacked up for years. And then I guess my question is, if you're going to come out here and yell at him for your kids failing. Because I didn't hear a whole lot of people up talking about my kids are failing in the system. As a matter of fact, the kids most affected by this, their parents are not there for a lot of different reasons.
Right. Understood. But can I say this?
Yeah.
I think ultimately it had to do with him being a black man.
A little bit.
And it also had to do with the amount of money that he was being paid.
Jealousy.
And they made comparisons. It's the psychosis that exists.
You could have been Christopher. You could have been green, man, and with the kind of misappropriation of funds and I won't even word it that way, but I'll just say, lack of bookkeeping and all of that. I don't care what color you were. You were going down if you were in the helm.
With the psychosis that exists in us, that has been bred, which is a physiological reality, biochemically speaking, the Willie Lynch syndrome that exists with us allows us to come before the community and crucify him before the actual opponents of us as a people who have been diametrically opposed to us in all aspects of progression. So my contention, and I think that a contention, if not the contention, is that we should not be so fast, so quick, so readily available to begin the onslaught of the degradation or the debasing or the defaming or the berating of someone who is clearly qualified himself and not sort through all of it. Because that what I have witnessed with my ears, and after that, what I have seen is that we have been the confirmers or the verifiers before the ones who would not even dare to qualify him to have so much authority.
But
we don't know the intricacies. We, as the Black community that I've heard over WNOV radio wave, this frequency, with some of the hosts, before I heard it over the TV airwaves, I heard it here.
Are you saying, but the fact that he's a black man does not mean that we cannot critique his professional?
What I'm saying is that because he is he will forever be a black man until the day he leaves this earth. We were so quick draw McGraw before those who didn't even want him to be in that position.
Well, he was in the position for 8 years.
Well, that's enough. That's a lot of
so
time.
What I'm saying is he's been in position for 8 years. He's been at MPS for over 20 years. I think close to 30, right? So I think that we have the right, but hold on. As taxpayers, we have the right to critique his performance, not his personality, not all the things that people were saying to him that had nothing to do with his performance. But we do have the right to critique. That is the school board's responsibility to do that. And in effect, they hadn't. So now he becomes the face of what's ever wrong with MPS when we realize, as you just pointed out, it is so deep, so layered, so baked into, like, getting stuff in on time is culture, right? It's an institutional culture that says that paperwork has to be done on time.
It's called business.
Right. And if you don't enforce culture.
And if you think that I don't understand that, man.
No. What I'm saying is that I think a lot of people out there are saying, oh, it's him. He doesn't sign off on that stuff.
He has a doctorate.
Okay.
It's called piled high and deeper. So I think at the essence of it all is this, that the product that was being produced is lackluster, and that it is lackluster because there is an agenda at hand to produce a functional illiterate that is only qualified to stamp and move backwards and forward and not to be a critical thinker, whereas they can be self-sufficient, whereas they can produce something with from their own mind, by their own hands. And since he was at the helm, and because he's a black man, and no matter what none of you say, that our people and you all are participants and co-conspirators in this, you contributed to his demise.
No, we did not.
Certainly.
No, we did not. He did.
Thank you very much.
He did. I didn't get one piece of that check that he was getting. I don't know if you heard this, Debo. Somebody, when Pastor Jolly was up speaking, and he mentioned that Dr. Posley is a member of his church, somebody yelled out, "What's 10% of $300,000?"
Alluding to them ties,
right? But no, I can critique him, dude, because my property tax is about to go up.
Yeah, well,
you think that I don't? I'm looking at it from that. We're talking about the whole fiduciary responsibility that he has. And I'm going to tell you, if it was a white dude,
I say he could have been green.
He would have been fired. He has. Politically,
green.
There's no way
and
that people
going to
accept that superintendent could stay.
If he was a white dude, as you put it, he more than likely would have already fired that financial officer.
Yep. Unless there was some complicity. You know what I'm saying? Unless there was something going on there. Right. Where it's kind of, and then I walked out. I didn't get a chance to say
because
he
had to know.
Segment.
He had to know that the SHIT was going to hit the fan.
Tom Barrett knew about those lead laterals.
Yeah,
before the election. So to act as if he didn't know, it was obvious he knew.
And when you speak to DPI and all of that stuff, and just how this whole piece in the referendum, again, I voted against it. And again, I don't have any kids, but I do have grandchildren that attend MPS. I come out of MPS, the whole nine. So I still got some say. I got a stake. Oh, yeah. I'm paying taxes, and just like anybody else does. So, but at the same time, you just kind of see that something's rotten in Denmark.
It's interesting. Ironically, when the revenue sharing piece came out, I went over to Spiker's town hall, and it was well, first of all, his constituents obviously love him. He was, county supervisor. Now he's the alderman. And but it was kind of the same thing, especially for some of the older taxpayers, because they asking the question, so where the money going? What y'all doing with the money? Something that we just probably have not been asking. And I'll throw it back to this. I don't know if I said this, but I'll say it again if I have. You're not down there tearing up the school board auditorium and overflow when the test scores come out.
I was just about to say the same thing, Keith.
You ain't down there tearing it up then.
That should have been more of a reason to get rid of them than not knowing where the money was.
Exactly. And so the idea, and look, there's some people, they get disappointed. If that meeting last night would have been just business, there have been some people disappointed.
There's a word that this guy, and I never really cared for the guy, but he always touted this word. He used this word all the time. And I think we lose it a lot of times because he used it as much as he did, but it's called accountability.
Yeah.
And the teachers, the board members, all of them need to have a level of accountability to this community when we start looking at test scores and reading levels and all of that. Where's the accountability?
Right. I mean, who is it? I heard people talk about the kids. Well, in terms of the hierarchy, the kids are down at the bottom.
Absolutely.
And what I mean by in terms of accountability and responsibility, because it's our responsibility to invest in those kids to get the best product. But I don't know what parent is cool when your kid comes in and they're in the second grade and they can't write their name.
Yeah.
You should be someplace tearing up.
Who was a genius that said that you don't need cursive? Who said that?
Not me.
You never write in cursive?
I hate cursive, man, but that's a whole different psychological trauma thing.
I get that piece, but I mean, do you sign your signature? What is that? What is that called?
What signature?
What is it? It's cursive?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if we
so
write
when they tell you to
now,
print your name,
right?
That's one form of writing.
Right.
And when you write in cursive, so you can that's all you needed for us to sign your name.
What else do we don't send letters that way?
I know people that write in cursive all day, every day.
Yeah, but we don't send letters that way. The way we communicate, most people communicate now is either through a text or through an email.
It doesn't mean that I don't need to know how to do it.
I think, this is just Keith, I think knowing how to spell is a little bit more important
I think
than what it looks like when you write, because most people, you can't even read their cursive.
And well.
Can you? I mean, if I wrote something to you in cursive, you would be going like, dude, did you flunk out of medical school?
But see, that would have been because your penmanship that has nothing to do with the fact that you don't know how to write it or to spell it. It's just your penmanship.
I hated penmanship. Yeah. To this day, I still hate penmanship. I was so glad when they said they go into block letters. It's like, what took y'all so long? We should have been blocking.
Keith, you knew I knew somebody was going to do it.
What's that?
Of course, brother Christopher, he never lets us down.
Right.
He wants to blame us for Dr. Posley, position.
Maybe my level of responsibility, and I think Michelle alluded to it, is that we should have been more mindful, and that we should have been.
We're doing our job. We're supposed to talk about it,
right? But I'm saying, as a taxpayer,
yeah,
I should have had my butt at meetings when there wasn't controversy.
Exactly.
Because again, when the young man pointed out the $24 million curriculum that was voted on with no debate, no discussion,
late night meeting.
Right. And that's $24 million that you took out of the money that you just raised through the referendum. And the question becomes, was there a need? And maybe there was. But was that discussed with the school board? No, you come in, this is what we're going to do. $24 million, there it goes.
Yeah.
Caller, welcome to the program. 19 principals assigned to central office. Good morning.
I'm baffled by this, man. This man been on this job for 8 years. And the system still seems like it's the same from the 80s to come on. Where do y'all see this at? Where these kids are failing, getting ready to go to the higher place like Department of Corrections. Because if you're not educated, 9 out of 10, that's where you're going to end up at. And it's a shame that we sit here and argue about he shouldn't have got fired. He should have been fired. He should have been fired the first time they saw that it was money being allocated somewhere that nobody knows where it was going, like the money to Randall. Where did that money go? What did that conquer? Did he get a cutback from that? Is they doing cutbacks? Is he driving a Porsche from a Honda now? Come on, we got to understand some things. Yeah, he's getting paid a lot of money, but what is he doing with the money he's supposed to be doing, helping these kids get educated? That's what we was looking at. And for Chris to be upset about somebody, if you had a job anywhere, if you was at We Energies, and the bill money was coming up short to go to the investors. What you think they're gonna do?
They're gonna fire you.
They're gonna get rid of you.
And I think that's the business part of it. I think it was interesting you talked about salary, because his salary has been a major concern for people. Why? I mean, that if that's what his salary is, that's what his salary is. When people now, because his salary is at that level, that means that there's a level of accountability that he has that's going to be higher, because he is getting paid what he's getting paid. People talk about he's getting paid more than the county executive.
Job?
Huh?
What is the superintendent job?
His job is to administrate the school system.
So when something happens wrong, education-wise or financial-wise, who gets the blame for it?
He does.
Right. So he needs to
And he said that last night.
Yeah, he know that. He was sitting there. He knew was responsible for the financial and the education of these kids in the MPS. These kids are failing. Yeah, you might have out of, let's say you got 20,000 kids, and then you only got 1,500 of them eligible to get a higher education. That's failing. That is failing.
Then wait, hold on. Is it the kids' inability to learn? Is it the teacher's inability to teach? Look, it has been known when Dr. Fuller, in the movie Waiting for Superman, he talks about his experience as superintendent of MPS. And I think in New York, they call it the Lemon Room. And he talked about the equivalent of the Lemon Room here. And that's when we still had the union. So the Lemon Room was that you have teachers who have no business being in the classroom. You can't fire them. So what they would do is they separate them, put them in a room, almost like Special C. They're still getting paid. And in New York, some of these teachers are getting $90,000 a year not to teach because of the difficulty of firing incompetent teachers. I'd love to hear what the record is for MPS firing teachers who have no business teaching.
Yeah, but who does that contract? Who actually writes that contract out? Because
there is no longer a contract, because which I thought was amazing, because I thought the unions have been decertified, which means that the Governmental Agencies Act 10, that they don't have to negotiate with a collective bargaining unit because they didn't have one. And so when we heard last night that an agreement had been made between the teachers union and MPS in terms of the $60 million pay increase for teachers and other staff, my question was, well, how are you able to do that? I mean, I thought that you don't negotiate with folks. You set what it is. The other thing I found really amazing, I heard this, is that if a teacher, one of the issues you have is there's certain schools that teachers don't want to teach in. When they had a collective bargaining agreement, part of the collective bargaining agreement was seniority rights. Seniority rights says then that the more time I have in, the better choices I have in terms of the schools that I can teach at. Now, unless MPS has put in their their work rules, whatever governs them, that seniority is still recognized. You have teachers who say, I don't want to teach at MLK Elementary School, right? And so they may or may not be put there. Now, in the past, you're a new teacher, you go to where we send you because you don't have the seniority to say otherwise. So I think that those are little dynamics that I find very interesting. When you look at the racial makeup of the teachers, MPS is like 16%. I think that's where they are, about 16% of their teachers are Black. Now that's high because some school districts is 8%. So you have that. I was telling Michelle that there was a little altercation between this brother and some of these white male MTEA members who were making disparaging, I guess, comments, and he viewed them as being racist, directed towards Superintendent Posley. And he checked the dude on it. And then he went to the president of the union to say, your folks are back here and they're saying these things that I kind of believe are inappropriate and they are probably racist.
Welcome to white Wisconsin.
Yes, sir.
It happens all the time.
Yes, sir.
And what we fail to realize is They're failing the kids, and by us failing the kids, man, it's creating a bigger issue, a bigger problem. They think it's easier for them their life expectancy is 20 years old, if that. Come on, man, we gotta see the big picture. The big picture is for us to fail as Black people, and if we don't get our mess together, we gonna fail as Black people.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let me get the last caller. Caller, welcome to the program.
Hang on, Keith. Let me turn my radio down. Keith, we talk about accountability, right? Let me ask you a question. So you said to kids, so shouldn't your kids, when they come in school now, not when we was little, but now kids should be coming in school knowing how to count, right? Knowing a little bit how to read,
right?
Knowing how to spell their name,
right?
Maybe even write their name,
right?
So where does accountability come from the parents? And I'm saying this because I know a whole lot of teachers, and I keep harping on this. You watch Saturday Night Live just like I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So did you watch it a couple of weeks ago when Minnie Riperton's daughter was on there, and they were doing this thing about, yeah, y'all students won? Did you see that skit?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And so this ain't just Wisconsin, Milwaukee. This is nationwide. Y'all have no idea how hard it is for these for these school teachers out here. No idea of what they have to go through.
And I agree with that, but
you made a point one day, Keith, when you thought that your mom was gonna come and jack your teacher up, right?
Yeah.
And what happened?
Man, you gonna bring up Mr. Brown again? Yeah.
But what I'm saying, Keith, it's not like that anymore.
Oh, you're right. I mean, you have when the kids we got the video of the kid clowning, and the mama's in or the daddy's in denial, want to jump on the teacher. Let me say this though: there are no victims, just volunteers. People know what the teaching landscape is. So when you walk in the door, this is what you're up against, right? I hope that you're going through that when you're doing your pedagogy training in college. Let me thank Miss Michelle Bryant. Let me thank Debo. Let me thank Harvey. Let me thank Miss Julia Means. Callers, we thank you. Good Lord willing, Creek don't rise. Hope to talk to everybody tomorrow. And as always, go from this place in peace.